All right, so baby's got to go to bed soon, so let's get this rocking and rolling. So, um, something crazy that nobody ever thinks about when they start a business or start an entrepreneurial venture, whatever you want to call it, right? And it's kind of a counterintuitive reality that people have to come to terms with, so to speak, right? And that's the reality that at some point you're going to fail. It's going to happen, and it's fine. It's fine, right? Every single successful person that has ever found any kind of success anywhere has at some point failed. There's no way around it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's how you deal with it that will determine whether or not you are defined by it or you can push past it, right? So in this video, I'm going to kind of show you a couple of things that are helpful for me, or that have been helpful to me in dealing with failure, right? And really, it kind of starts with it really starts with an understanding that failure is going to be part of your success, right? It's really about shifting your own perception of failure. Um, and dealing with it realistically, dealing with it when it shows up, because that's just the way it is, right? A person's ultimate test of character, a person's character is ultimately much better defined by their response to failure than their response to success, right? And there's a couple of things that will help you in the long run, right? First, find some resources, right? Whether it's a mentor, somebody in your field, somebody that's doing the same things that you're doing as a business person or an entrepreneur or a spiritual leader at your church. There's lots of small groups at churches. Some even that deal with being an entrepreneur or a self-employed person specifically. Look into that stuff and get connected, or even if you have to go the professional route and seek psychological help and shifting your mindset, that's a realistic option that can be pursued. There's a lot of business coaches who rely heavily on the psychology of mindset to get their clients where they want to go. So spend a couple of minutes, spend as much time as it takes to figure out where you can find some of those resources, and then go talk to them, right? Just go talk to them, go have a conversation with them. Now, this is kind of a new take on things because I was thinking very seriously about whether or not any of this was going to be fruitful in the long run. And I came to the decision that the only way that it could be, because I believe what I say I believe, the only way that it can come to the only reason it can come to work out in a way that is beneficial in my certain circumstance anyway, is through application of biblical principles into running my company, right? Which means I have to step up and profess what it is that I believe, right? As a Christian man, anybody that knows me knows who I am, knows what I'm about. As a Christian man, it would make very, very poor sense for me to not include him in the way that I do things on this earth, right? Especially as it relates to building something for my family, right? And we can find, and coincidentally, if you will, we can find a lot of places in the Bible where failure was not something that defined the person, right? Everybody knows the story of David and killing Goliath with the rock, and becoming king of Israel, and then Bathsheba and her husband, and it's him sending her husband to war so that he could do what he wanted to do, etc., right? But he still ended up being one of the most powerful and well-respected kings of Israel, because he understood that his part in his success was not the successful parts. His part in his success was the failures, right? So that we had a measure against which to compare everything else in his life, right? That didn't necessarily come from a place of faith in God. But the beautiful thing about any of the failure stories is they always come with a transformation story, right? We know, Peter was the tax collector, and Paul was a terrorist, like literally a terrorist, killing Christians, and the things that they did to Jews, much less Christians before Christ got here. It just goes to show you that what it is that you're doing in the moment does not condemn or define what you are tomorrow. You can change the way you think and look at things. You can develop a better way of dealing with failure. You can find better ways to deal with imposter syndrome that comes from failing, right? You try something, you don't do well at it. Do I even belong here? It's a real thing. It's a real thing. And it's necessary. And it's necessary to understand that you can transform if you are expecting yourself to do any kind of transformation, real transformation from where you are now, which it's going to take. At some point, you're going to have to make some kind of transformation. You're going to have to make a hard commitment to something along the line that's going to be a hard choice to make. Right? Whether, like we said in the last chapter, whether it's people in your life that are no longer supportive and that doesn't necessarily mean cutting them out of your life. It certainly means maybe not involving them in this part of what's going on in your life. But those hard decisions are going to have to be addressed at some point. And it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Everybody comes to it. Everybody has to go through it. How you deal with it will determine whether or not it works out well for you or not. Where this kind of starts from, I think, a lot of times is people have a misconception of what product it is that they're going to be successful with. A lot of people get too involved in a single product, right? And I was guilty of it too. This book took me 6 years to write, right? I spent all this time refining it and blah, 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 blah. But I wasn't thinking past the book. So for 6 years, while writing the book, I didn't move anywhere. I was just stagnant, right? Until I figured out that the book is not the only source of revenue possible, in real life. There's plenty of ways to make money out here in the real world. So I think a lot of it starts with a misconception of what product it is that you need to bring to market. And it's unrealistic to expect, honestly, to be a success right out of the gate. That's just not realistic unless you have an endless amount of startup capital and an endless access to incredibly influential people that can spread the word for you real fast, which is obviously even more expensive. And even still, it's a risk. Even if you spend all that capital, you spend all that, financial capital, you spend all that influence capital, it's still a risk may not hit, especially if you haven't gone through the necessary process of refining the product, refining the, refining your audience's response to the product. It's a real risk that it might still not come to fruition. So, and it's easy to get real scared, especially when it's even if what you're doing now is not necessarily something you're putting enough weight in to quit your job, right? Again, at some point you're going to be faced with, if you're doing this right and you're going through this process and you're building it right and you're taking the necessary steps to grow your business, at some point you're going to be left with the option, okay, do I keep spending time and energy not doing this, or do I spend the time and energy I keep expending for somebody else to do my thing, right? You're gonna have to make that choice, and it's a very, very hard choice to make, especially when you have maybe years and years and years at a company. You've got good benefits. Maybe you can pick your own schedule, whatever the perks may be that would cause you to want to stay. Fear of losing that is a real driver of poor decision making, especially in the face of failure, right? So it becomes extremely important. It becomes extremely important to separate yourself from a failure, right? A failure, again, is not something that condemns or defines us. All right, it's a opportunity for us to collect data. That's how I look at it, right? If something flops, right, and it's down to everyday stuff. Like that's why we track analytics on Facebook marketing and social media marketing, right? That's why we track the analytics. The red and white one didn't work. Let's try the blue and gold one, right? This particular phraseology didn't work as well as the one before it. So let's go back to the one before it. You're gonna find that not everything you do is going to be a banger. And it's unrealistic to think that that's going to be the case. So as it relates to any of this stuff, it becomes, again, necessary for you to change the way you look at failure so that you can start changing the way that you deal with failure. There's a couple of studies. I won't go too into detail with them. If you want references, they're actually in the back of the book, so go check it out. C.S. Dweck in 2006 put a study together called Mindset, the Psychology of Success by Random House. They studied thousands and thousands of cases, and consistently, those people who used a failure as an opportunity to make a change and to shift, right? Those who viewed failure as a challenge or an opportunity did significantly better than their counterparts. And again, it's one of those things where if you're gonna dwell on everything that's negative, you're going to get negative stuff back, right? I know again it sounds kind of like hooey with the whole secret thing, but it's not. It's real. If you're going to focus on the negative stuff about running a business, then the negative stuff about running a business is all that you're going to see, right? So becoming comfortable with the fact that not everything's going to be a banger up front before you even start to really get committed into spending time and energy into this project is going to be so helpful for you. Coming to terms now with the fact that failure is going to be an inevitable part of what you do as an entrepreneur, dealing with that now and coming up with a way to address that by seeking out mentors, in your field, or seeking out spiritual leaders in your church, or seeking out professional help in mindset coaches or psychologists. Doing that now will infinitely benefit you in the long run, because it'll give you a head start on dealing with, okay, if you know from the get-go that your failures do not define you, you won't be defined by your failures. I know it sounds corny and hokey, but it's common sense, right? If you refuse to let failure define you, it won't. So it becomes necessary to start there. And I suggest, like I said, put together a list of people who you could talk to, who could help you out in this. Of course, extenuating circumstances are sometimes extenuating circumstances. Not everybody's going to be in a position in life where building a support structure around them is going to be fast or efficient. But I still encourage you to do it, to go through the process of reaching out and finding somebody who you can talk to. So there are three key things, right, that I kind of harp on as it comes to dealing with a failure when it comes up, right? Because a lot of times what we tend to do is we tend to go into shock, thinking, oh my God, how did that fail? Then we go into kind of taking it personally because I spent so much time and energy on this product. And then we just carry it with us, right? And that turns into the imposter syndrome. Or what if all of the stuff that I'm doing is just pointless? Why am I even bothering? Do I belong here? Am I worthy of even trying? That's where that comes from. So if we address that upfront and personal now, right, and we put together a way of proactively dealing with it, which I'm about to show you here, right? We have a head start on the whole process. So first things first, don't freak out. Don't freak out. Don't freak out. This will happen, and it's okay. You'll get through it, and we'll put it behind us, right? Second thing, ask somebody for help. Ask someone for help. Ask one of those mentors or one of the spiritual leaders or the psychologist, hey, help me figure out how to deal with this, right? Whether you're asking a psychologist, how do I deal with this mentally, or you're asking a spiritual leader, how do I involve God in getting me past this, or you're speaking to a business mentor, what steps do I take to put this behind me, right? What can I get from this? Ask. It's the only way you're going to figure out what it is that you're supposed to do in any given situation that you've never been in before. Ask. Ask the people who have been there. Ask the people who know the answers. We're all willing to help. Most of us. I say that. Not all of us. Most of us are willing to help. So, last of all, third, or whatever you want to call it, put it behind you. Just put it up. Once you've dealt with it, you've garnered the necessary data from it, right? You've plugged that data into your process so that you can learn from it next time, right? You can use it as a way to see, maybe be able to see what's coming. Maybe this kind of situation can be avoided the next time around, right? Once you've got all that data extrapolated and plugged in where it's supposed to be plugged in, get rid of it. Don't hold on to it. It's bad for you. It's bad for you. Again, that imposter syndrome, that's where it comes from. Holding on to it. Holding on to it for dear life. Like it's somehow part of you. It's not. It's not. It's just a part of the process. It's not a part of you. It's a part of the process. It's a part of the process. Let it be part of the process. Don't let it be you. So, let's see here. Let's do a little challenge. We'll do a little challenge this week. The foundations of calm, right? You have to start building your team. The foundation of calm comes from knowing that the pieces are in place that need to be in place, right? Which means you need to start putting that team together, that mentor, that psychologist, professional, business mentor, professional, whatever it is. Start building that team. They have to be three things. They can't be a couple of them or just one of them. They have to be all three things, right? And so it becomes very. The onus is on you to be very discerning here. They have to be supportive. They have to be kind. But above all else, they have to be honest. Somebody who can be honest can still be supportive and kind, but they're not always supportive and kind. Somebody who can be honest can also be someone who tears you down and does it in a way that's destructive to your mindset. All right? Somebody who is kind, right, may not be as honest as you want them to be, right? And they would rather give you nice words than give you support. And when I mean support, I mean actively be working with you in a direction, right? Not necessarily working with the company, but at least allowing you in some capacity to bounce off the ideas from them so that you can keep moving forward. And somebody who's supportive may not be kind or honest. You know what I mean? Somebody who's supportive maybe tells you all the stuff that you want to hear, which is definitely not kind, right? And then leads you down a path that is where you shouldn't be, because they weren't honest with the fact that what you were doing was maybe not the most productive thing at that point or at that moment. So build your team. They have to be supportive. They have to be kind, and they have to be honest. Find a mentor. Whether or not you have a spiritual leader who's helping you out, or a psychological professional that's helping you out, find a mentor, right? Find somebody, whether it's at church or at school or somebody in your family, in one of your social groups, whatever, There's a whole bunch of social media platforms, or a whole bunch of social media groups and stuff that you can join where you can find support for this kind of things. You have to be active in them, and it takes a little bit of time, but it's definitely worth it. If you can find somebody, if you can start to cultivate those relationships where you can find somebody to bounce some ideas off of, or to be, a helpful shoulder upon which to lean on occasion. So, and yeah, so find you a mentor, start to build your team, and maybe even, and this is the real stiff part of the challenge, right? This is going to be the real stiff part of the challenge. There's a stark reality that we all have to face, right? Not everybody in our current circle, right, is going to be in our future circle. That's just a stark reality. It's not necessarily easy to deal with. It's honestly not even easy for me to say to somebody, because I hate the idea of somebody losing someone in their life who is important at the moment. But at some point, you will start to have to consider whether or not the normal crowd that you hang out with is going to be edifying to what it is your end goals are, right? So, your challenge this week, like I said, start building your team. Supportive, kind, honest. Find a mentor, right? Find a mentor. I don't care where you go to find one. Go find one, and then start to evaluate where it is that some of the people in your life, start to evaluate what space they occupy in your life, right? And you might have to start having these conversations with these people now. Hey, if I started doing this, would you be supportive, right? And gauge your reaction. Obviously, I don't use anything as that they say necessarily as a end all be all decision maker for you. Just, you're fishing for a response, not the information, right? As a way to help determine, where it is your attention needs to be focused as far as people goes. So let's make that this week's challenge. Type in the comments, how it goes. Keep me posted on it. Let's keep track as best we can for one another as an accountability group. As always, we've got the free download, the workbook, and the cheat sheet for write that down, the getting past the starting line. Go check it out. What's the website? www.getatitpodcast.com. Go to the shop section. You'll see the 2 downloads. Put in the promo code MyPDFs. That's MYPDFS. When it comes to checkout, it'll zero out those totals, and you can get those two things for free. Also, get yourself a copy of the book. Write it down, or write that down. It's a good overall, I think, source. It's got some studies referenced in it that you might want to take a little gander at. So, and please, if any of that data is wrong, let me know, because I let AI fact check that stuff. So if I'm wrong, tell me. Either way. Go check out the stuff. Go by the website. We're going to start signing up for personal coaching time slots here in the near future. So make sure you go in there and get familiar with that process as well. Go sign yourself up for an account. You'll get access to the weekly blog and all that kind of fun stuff, so that you can keep abreast of what's happening. Outside of that, next episode, I'm not sure what topic yet we're going to be covering. There's a couple of them that I want to cover, and I want to kind of keep it in line with the book's chapters, but I might just forego all of that and go a completely different direction. Either way, do me a favor and like, comment, share, subscribe, tell all your friends, hey, come check out this podcast if you're getting good content out of it. We will continue to do our best to provide the best content that we can for you. Tune in next week, Wednesday afternoon, for episode 3. And until then, be helpful, be a leader, learn the smart stuff. And if you can be here, get here.